Hello everyone, this is Altar of Wisdom. Today we're talking about my latest device for live, which is called AutoModulate or AutoMod. Let's start off by just explaining a bit what this is all about. And some of you probably already know about autoplay, which is a random step sequencer that allows you to automatically generate random sequences out of any synth plugin, or if you're on the audio version of autoplay, to do the same kind of stuff by chopping up incoming audio and outputting it in random sequences. Today, what I've done is taken this one step further. Instead of dealing with the audio signal or generating MIDI sequences, I've tried to do the same kind of effects and step sequencing with modulation parameters. So the device in itself doesn't do anything per se, as it doesn't process any audio or MIDI signal. Instead is controlling device parameters anywhere in live. So let's get on to it. Let's go a bit just on the graphical interface of AutoModulate. If you're familiar with autoplay, you see to the left half the same kind of stuff that you have in autoplay. And for those who don't know about autoplay, I will explain a bit how it works. So basically, what you do is select an overall duration, an overall speed of the device. So one time corresponds to the values which are below, and if you increase that, basically you just slow down the whole process by this amount. So if it's 2 times, then instead of generating sequences of this value, there will be double, so 1/16, 1/18, 1/4, and 1 second. Apart from that, when the transport is playing, AutoModulate is going to select randomly, based on these probabilities, random value, random length, and play that length for a given amount of time. And when that length is that duration is over, it's going to select another one. The thing with this is it tries to stay in sync, because you don't want to play one 30-second note and just after that having 1/16 or 1/4, because you're gonna go out of sync pretty much with regards to the transport. So it stays in sync. So if I'm playing 1 30-second, then the modulation, the sequencer will force itself to play at least twice this one if it's gonna play a 16 after that. But if it's gonna play an 8 after that, then it's forced to play 4 times this 1 30-second to get in sync with a 1/8 grid. So it may be a bit complex, but just all this is pretty straightforward once you use it. Then we have the length processing. This means that when the step sequencer has selected the length, for example 1/4, you have the possibility of telling the plugin how much of that length something will happen. So if I just say 0, then nothing's going to happen, because in the given amount of time, it will have 0% of the time doing something. If I do 50%, for example, then 1/4, if 1/4 is selected, then it will happen and will process the parameters for 1/8, which is half of the 1/4 which has been selected. And the random parameter allows to increase that percentage up to the point of the full value if it's at 100. So if it's 0, then every step sequence will be 50% of the given step. And if it's 100, it's going to go from 50 to 100%. Same for the mod intensity. This one is using velocity kind of like parameter, but of course here it's not working on velocity. But basically what it does is telling the plugin how much modulation will happen within the minimum and maximum values that have been set for a given parameter. So again, if I'm halfway, then it's going to go here, for example, from 0 to 50%. And if I'm full way, it's going to go from 0 to 100%. The random parameter allows also to increase that value by a given random percentage for each step. So these are the basic parameters which are common to most of my plugins. Now we come to the specific part. As we are dealing with parameters and basically in the audio domain, then you don't want to have events happening too fast or happening too fast in audio signal or processes, because it's going to cause some clipping and some noise. So you can smooth down the value. You see that the smooth parameter goes quite high, like 2 seconds here, and even more if you select ramp time in node divisions. Basically this will allow you to use that smooth parameter as the creative effect if you want to have slow modulation happening instead of instant one, which is by default if you just select 0 millisecond. If I'm at 0, for example, each time a step starts, then the modulation will go, the parameter will go from 0 to 100% instantly. So sometimes we want to ramp up. It's going to be clearer when we deal with actual audio. Step probability. It's a global percentage of chance that the step sequencer will trigger something. So if it's 50% like that, then once every second step randomly, the modulation will happen. And once every second step, every other step, it will not happen. So it allows to add a percentage of density of the modulation. Next, we see the parameter mapping. So here you can map any parameter within live, and you have additional parameters that you can select. So for example, well, let's select the feedback of the phaser which I've put behind, and then the modulation will happen on this feedback. Again, I have several other parameters, so we can select anything else within the same track, and we'll see later that we can also select anything which is in the master, the list of track, and also any plugin which is anywhere on any track within the live session. Okay, so what do we have here? Let's get into it. So we have a basic foundation for a site project, so just a kick and bass, some hi-hats, pretty basic, and I've added some elements on which I want to apply the AutoMod for this demonstration. So I have a mid loop, pretty simple. I have a Serum patch here. It's not modulated, and the parameter has already been selected, so I can't change anything right now, but I will do it later. So it's a patch for my preference Shep liquid sweep. So you see here that you can change. There are some macros that allow us to change the sound. So these macros is what is going to interest us to be modulated. After the AutoModulate, I've had an autoplay audio plugin, so this will allow us to chop up the sound and build up even more interesting stuff. Next we have a top loop, just a basic one. Some atmosphere. The sound is, the timbre is really nice, but it's not moving whatsoever, so it's pretty boring. We'll change that. And then I have two acid lines. So everything is set to the key of C. So let's start with the mid loop. I activate AutoModulate, play the loop, and nothing happens because I haven't activated the phaser. Let's do it. So it's, as you see, it's moving quite fast, so we can smooth it up. Here we see the representation of the actual modulation happening. So now this is zero modulation, and then is a full modulation. So as you see, it's not going all the time to the full modulation because of that smooth parameter, which just is slower than the fastest parameter, the fastest speed of the step sequencer. So if I make it a bit faster, then we get back to full modulation each time, if you want it. I can also change the curve of each modulation to have it happen faster. They're all slower here, so it means that it will always start slow from the minimum and then increase its speed up to the maximum, or the opposite. It will modulate very fast at the beginning and slow down when it approaches the maximum volume. And this is per parameter, so it allows you pretty much to control the modulation speed. Let's put a bit of random on the intensity of the modulation. You can slow down the whole thing. We can also have some random on the lens processing. We can also map on another parameter, like the frequency. So we see that both parameters are going from 0 to 100%. We can change that. So the only thing that you are forced to do is that the modulation is happening in sync, of course, because everything is tied to the plugin. Let's switch back, so modulation can happen backwards. Interesting. Let's switch to the next thing. So here we have this Serum patch. It's not modulating whatsoever. So let's map macro 3 and macro 4 2. Macro 3 is controlling the direction of the sweep, the sweep, sorry, and the macro 2 is the direction of the sweep. So let's have something a bit faster, so we want to change macro 3. Let's add the autoplay. So this is not chopped up whatsoever. So let's chop it up randomly. let's add a bit of echo. Enter. So pretty interesting if I just deactivate everything. Moving on. Put up loop. How about I do not to filter on bandpass? I'm going to map the frequency to my AutoMod. So this is too much. Some effect afterward. Faster. And there we go. Next, the Atmos. So on this one, I've got already quite some stuff happening. So there is a resampler with crusher. I have an instant flanger from Eventide, a pitch shifter, and again some AutoModulate to chop it up. I'll activate later. So we activate AutoMod, and let's map it to the dance sample here. Let's add modulation on the flanger, on the feedback, say. Let's also add some on the pitch shifter, just a little bit. Like some random vibrato. And it's a play. So quite fast. We got 30 seconds. And a bit of sand to add some echo afterwards. And finally, the acid lines. On this one, I'm going to illustrate that I can control parameters from another track. So this one has the AutoModulate happening, but it's controlling the track panning here, but also the track panning of the next one, so opposite directions. So basically when the modulation is sending this one left, then this one is sent right, and the opposite. Same for the gain, because there's acid lines have overlapping frequencies. So I have the same, but we'll see that the gain on the second band, which is around 200, are inverted. So when this one is boosted, this one is diminished, and the opposite, and the reverse. Let's test it. So we see that this gain is moving, whereas the AutoMod is not on the same track, but still it's an object which is referenced by live, so it's accessible. And this one is moving opposite direction. It's complex because we can't see both at the same time. And also we can see that the bands, they are going opposite direction. Let's give it a try. It's gonna be too much, of course. Okay, that's pretty much it. I've tried to show a bit everything that you can do with AutoModulate, of course, from a creative standpoint. Once you have all this, you can do pretty much what you want. Think about AutoModulate as some kind of a plugin which will, at the same time, replace an LFO, the one of live. But also the envelope, because the smooth parameter is also allowing you to have some envelope happening, and at the same time a randomization plugin plus a step sequencer, so all that happening in sync within just one plugin. So I hope you like this plugin, and let me know in the comments if there is anything that could be missing in it, because I'm pretty active and trying to add some new features on a regular basis. So thanks for your attention, keep up, and see you later, guys.